The village is asleep. The sky hangs low, cloaked in indigo and violet, the stars pricking through the soft veil of night. A sliver of moonlight rests gently across the thatched rooftops, and fog, like breath on a mirror, settles over cobbled streets and crooked fences. Everything is still, still as a sleeping child, beneath heavy woolen covers. No hoofbeats, no footsteps, no voices, just the occasional creak of old wood stretching beneath the weight of time and wind. But even in this silence, something stirs. In a modest home nestled near the center of the village, a building with smoke-stained stones and thick wooden beams, a single ember pulses, then flares. Inside, the baker is rising. He has done this so many mornings, before the cockerel crows, before the bell rings for prayer, that his body no longer requires thought to rise. He sits up slowly on a low wooden bed, swinging tired legs over the edge. The straw-stuffed mattress crinkles beneath him. The air is cold, very cold. His breath leaves small clouds in the lamplight. He dresses without ceremony. A linen shirt, a heavy wool tunic, leggings, leather shoes. Everything smells faintly of flour and hearth smoke. The weight of sleep still lingers behind his eyes, but the day begins whether he welcomes it or not. He lights a small oil lamp. The wick sputters, catches, and its glow paints soft, flickering patterns on the old beams of the ceiling. Downstairs, in the bakery proper, the room waits in hushed readiness. Sacks of flour lean against the wall, tied at the top with twine. A great wooden trough for mixing dough sits like a ship in dry dock, waiting to be filled. Wooden paddles, round earthenware bowls, a broad stone oven nestled against the far wall, all of it still, all of it silent. The baker moves with quiet familiarity, no rush. His steps are soft, measured. He takes a small wooden scoop and dips it into the flour sack, pulling out a pale, coarse handful. The flour falls like fine snow into the mixing trough. He repeats the motion again and again until a modest mound is formed. He adds salt, a precious thing, and water, drawn from the well the night before, now resting in a covered jar to keep it clean and temperate. And then, the most important ingredient of all, yesterday's leaven, the starter, a small earthen jar tucked away in a cool corner, brimming with life, bubbling, slightly sour smelling, slightly sticky, a living thing, passed down, like memory, from loaf to loaf. He pours it in carefully, mixing gently with his hand, then begins the kneading. It is a slow, deliberate process. He leans into it with both arms, folding the dough, pressing it, turning it, folding again. The dough is resistant at first, cold, stubborn, but with time, with patience, it yields. It grows warm beneath his hands, smooth, springy, alive. Outside, the village is still wrapped in darkness, but inside this quiet room, life begins anew, not with a cry or a shout, but with the steady rhythm of hands against dough. And this is how the day begins, with the dough resting quietly beneath a linen cloth, rising slowly in the early chill. The baker turns to his next task, the hearth. No loaf can come to life without the fire. It is the breath and the heartbeat of this quiet trade. And so, as the dough begins its gentle fermentation, the baker prepares the oven. The bread oven is no small thing. It sits against the far wall like a slumbering beast, round-bellied and squat, made from stone and clay, blackened from countless fires past. Its mouth, wide and low, is sealed by a wooden door reinforced with iron. Cold now, but not for long. The baker crouches beside it and opens the hatch with a soft creak. Inside, darkness. The stones that line the oven's interior are old, hand-shaped, uneven, layered with soot. He brushes them gently with a flat wooden scraper, removing remnants of yesterday's fire, crumbled charcoal, thin white ash, the faint smell of smoke. Then, slowly, he begins to build the new flame. He starts with kindling, thin twigs, carefully chosen and bundled the day before, bone dry and splintery. These are laid in a small mound in the center of the oven's floor. Surrounded by rougher branches and chopped logs, he stacks them purposefully, like a carpenter crafting a tiny house, balanced, breathable, ready to burn hot and clean. Then, from the small shelf beside the oven, he takes a flint and steel. Kneeling again, he holds the steel just above the waiting tinder and strikes the flint. Sparks leap into the shadows, flickering like fireflies and vanishing again. Once, twice, and then, on the third strike, a glow. The tinder catches. The flame grows slowly, patiently. With no wind to feed it, it drinks from the wood itself, crawling outward, licking the twigs with orange tongues. The baker leans back on his heels, watching it. He does not rush. He does not stir it. He knows the rhythm of fire. He knows to wait. The room begins to change. That cold, earthy silence from before, the breath of nighttime clay, warms into something new. The crackle of flame is soft, rhythmic, like dry leaves beneath a child's feet. The scent rises, pine and oak, dry bark and old ash. It seeps into every beam of wood, every apron string, every stone floor joint. As the flames grow, so does the glow inside the oven. The stones begin to heat, the interior changing from dark to ember-lit. Eventually, when the fire reaches its peak, when the entire belly of the oven is alive with heat, the baker adds larger logs, feeding the blaze in slow succession. Outside, the sky begins to lighten, softly, faintly. The first rays of dawn stretch like pale fingers over the treetops beyond the village wall. Through a thin crack in the shutter, the baker sees a sliver of peach-colored sky. But inside, the oven commands his full attention. He watches it carefully. This oven is not like the ones found in modern kitchens. No knobs, no precise degrees. Temperature is read with the body, by placing a bare hand near the mouth of the oven, feeling the push of heat on the skin, watching how quickly a wisp of flour darkens against the hot stone, listening to how the wood crackles, too cold, and the bread will be pale, underdone, lifeless, too hot, and the crust will burn before the center has even baked. There is an art to the balance, a rhythm. When the oven is finally hot enough, the baker no longer adds wood. Instead, he lets the fire begin to die. He takes a long-handled metal rake and spreads the coals evenly across the stone floor. The glowing embers hiss and shift, creating an even bed of heat. Then, with practiced movements, he sweeps the coals into a metal pan. The interior of the oven glows faintly now, like the fading blush of sunset. He uses a soaked burlap cloth on a wooden pole to wipe down the stones. This removes the last ashes, but it also releases a burst of steam. A gentle hiss echoes in the quiet room, and then stillness. The oven is ready. The dough, now puffy and risen, has grown beneath its cloth like a resting animal. The room is warm now, alive. The glow of the hearth makes the flour in the air look like stardust. This warmth is not just of temperature, but of memory, of tradition. This fire has burned in one form or another for generations. Perhaps the baker's father once stood here, raking coals just the same way. Perhaps his grandfather, before him, the same motions, the same tools, the same quiet reverence. There is something sacred about it. Outside, a rooster calls. A dog barks once. A shutter creaks open in the house next door. The world is waking. But inside this little bakery, the day is already deep into its rhythm. The oven breathes. The dough waits. And soon, the baking will begin. The oven is ready. The room is warm now, not merely from the fire, but from the deep, gentle energy of the day taking shape. There is a quiet momentum to the baker's work, a rhythm that neither hurries nor halts. The rising dough is plump and soft beneath its linen covering, its surface slightly dimpled with air. It smells faintly sour, a living scent, a mingling of yeast and flour, time and temperature. The baker lifts the cloth carefully. He does not poke the dough, nor prod it. He watches it, listens to it, feels the way the dough responds as he flour dusts his hands and divides it with a wooden blade. The dough sighs slightly as it's cut. No sound, really, just the faintest shift in tension. Each loaf is gently shaped by hand. No molds, no machinery, just palms, fingers, and memory. The forms are simple, round or oval, perhaps 1 or 2 loaves plaited in a braid if the flour is rich today. He does not rush this process. Each turn of dough is folded gently inward, pressed lightly into itself, sealed at the bottom, a soft, ancient motion. He dusts the wooden peel, a wide, flat paddle, with flour to prevent sticking, then places the loaves carefully onto it, one at a time. The peel rests just beside the oven mouth. A gentle breath of heat escapes with every movement near the opening. The air smells of scorched wood and rising bread. One by one, he slides the loaves into the oven. It's a deliberate, quiet act, not dramatic, not rushed. The loaves vanish into the glowing interior, each nestled into its own space along the warm stone floor. The baker watches carefully to ensure spacing, to sense the heat on his skin, to feel the tug of the fire's breath as he leans in slightly. The moment the last loaf enters, he seals the oven with its heavy wooden door, muffling the radiant glow within. Now he waits. The baking time is instinctive. There is no bell, no clock, only a lifetime of knowing. Sometimes he listens to how the crusts crackle inside. Sometimes he watches the vapor rising from the chimney vent. Often, he simply waits, sitting near the oven with a cloth in his lap and a mug of warm ale or watered wine beside him, his hands resting in his lap. While the loaves bake, he tends to his tools. He washes the bowls used for mixing, pours water over the kneading trough, sweeps the floor where flour has gathered in soft drifts, and wipes the window panes where condensation from the oven clings like breath on glass. The cleaning itself is quiet and slow. Every motion is soft, every gesture deliberate. Outside, the morning continues. The village is awake now. Children laugh somewhere beyond the bakery walls. A cart rolls down the road, its wheels clattering gently over the stones. The blacksmith strikes his anvil in rhythmic pulses, like a heartbeat. Birds call out from the eaves. A soft breeze slides under the door and cools the baker's ankles. Inside the oven, the crust begins to form. The loaves rise, then settle into themselves. The outer layer turns golden, then russet, then slightly darker at the edges. Where the dough was scored, small, shallow cuts across the top, the crust opens like a mouth, releasing steam and deepening color. The aroma changes now too. It's no longer just the soft sourness of dough, but the earthy, toasted scent of transformation. The sugars in the flour caramelize. The air smells rich, almost sweet. Soon, it is time. The baker opens the oven and leans in, face warmed instantly by the radiant heat. He slides the peel beneath the first loaf, testing its base with a practiced flick of his wrist. The bottom sounds hollow when tapped. He nods softly to himself. It is done. One by one, he draws the loaves from the oven. They emerge steaming, their crusts crisp and slightly split. Some are dusted with flour, others gently blistered by the fire's heat. He lays them on wooden racks to cool, the room now filled with warmth and fragrance, as if the bakery itself exhales in satisfaction. The loaves crackle as they rest, a tiny chorus of pops and sighs, subtle, fleeting sounds, as the hot crusts meet cooler air. It is a quiet music only a baker knows. He listens, smiling faintly. He takes a clean cloth and gently brushes flour from the tops of each loaf, his movements as soft as one might soothe a sleeping child. There is a sense of reverence in this moment. He does not cut into the bread, not yet, not for show. These loaves are not for him. They are for the village, for the families who wait, for the old woman with the cane, for the children who will tear them open with sticky fingers, for the smith, the midwife, the priest, and the poor man who pays only with eggs. This bread is not his to enjoy. It is his to offer. Outside, the sun lifts higher in the sky. The day has moved forward. The bread is ready. The bakery, too, has shifted. No longer silent, no longer hidden. It stands now as a beacon of warmth and scent, small but necessary center of the village's waking life. And so, with clean hands and quiet pride, the baker prepares to open the shutters. The loaves, arranged in baskets and lined across the counter, wait patiently in rows, like a harvest ready for market. His work is far from done, but the bread is baked. The hardest part, the sacred part, is complete. The rest of the day is for sharing. The shutters creak open. Their wooden hinges, worn smooth by decades of use, protest softly as the baker pushes them outward. The morning light streams in, not harsh, but golden and warm, filtered through the low clouds and the fine dust that always lingers in the bakery's air. It catches on the drifting flour and suspended scent of toasted crust, turning the room into a haze of comfort and memory. The village is in motion now. A woman walks by, holding a basket woven from willow branches. Her shawl is faded, her boots muddied, her pace unhurried. A boy chases a dog through the alley beside the blacksmith's forge. A man hauls firewood in his arms, nodding at the baker as he passes. The church bell tolls softly in the distance, just one, maybe two times. Not for prayer, just a mark of the hour. Inside the bakery, the bread is lined up in quiet rows, loaves of different sizes and textures, but all with the same familiar shape. Some are dusted with white flour, others bear darker crusts, cracked and rugged from barley or rye. There are small rolls for the children and simple broad rounds for large families. None are luxurious, none are fancy, but they are warm, honest, and plentiful. The baker wipes his hands on a cloth, checking his display one last time. No embellishments, no signs, just baskets and a wooden counter and the open shutters through which villagers begin to arrive, drawn by the scent, the promise, and the quiet certainty that bread is waiting. The first to arrive is an older woman, her hair tucked into a linen cap, her back slightly stooped. She has come every morning for years. They do not speak much. A nod, a faint smile. He selects a medium loaf, places it gently into her basket, and she hands him 2 small coins, copper, worn. He doesn't look at them too closely. He trusts her. She leaves without a word, the steam from the bread rising in the cool air like a blessing. Next is a young boy, No more than 8. Sent by his mother, no doubt. He clutches a folded cloth and 2 buttons tied with string. He places them on the counter, eyes wide, watching as the baker selects one of the smaller loaves. The boy holds the bread like treasure, and after a small, whispered, "Thank you," he vanishes down the road. The transactions are simple. Coins are used, yes, but so are eggs, firewood, lengths of twine, scraps of cloth, and sometimes nothing at all. The baker keeps a small ledger, but mostly in his head. He knows who can pay and who cannot, who pays later, and who pays with kindness. He has given bread in exchange for a tune on a fiddle, for a repaired shoe, for herbs from a garden, for a child's drawing. The value of bread is not only in what it costs, but in what it means. Bread is not a luxury. It is not a feast. It is a quiet promise that life will go on. More villagers arrive. A young mother with a baby in her shawl, a stoic man with an axe slung across his shoulder, a group of giggling girls on their way to the well. They come in waves, never many at once, and always with soft voices, as though the bakery is a kind of chapel. The baker does not rush. He does not try to sell more than he has. He gives what he can, accepts what is offered, and when someone comes in with nothing, no coin, no barter, only a tired face and a downcast gaze, he still reaches for a loaf, perhaps smaller than the rest, perhaps yesterday's bread, still good and filling, but still given, still warm, still wrapped gently in a cloth and passed across the counter without a word. This, too, is part of the work. Outside, a cart rattles by. Chickens peck near the doorstep. The scent of nearby cooking fires begins to rise as hearths are lit for mid-morning meals. A child laughs, clear and free, as she tears off a hunk of bread the size of her fist. Crumbs scatter like seeds across the road. Inside the bakery, the loaves begin to dwindle. The baskets empty slowly, one by one. There is no sense of urgency, no long line, no crowd, just a soft trickle of community, a rhythm of giving. By mid-morning, only a few loaves remain, one set aside for the priest, one for the elderly widow who always arrives last, and one or two kept back for the baker's own table. He wipes the counter clean with a damp cloth, then pours himself a small cup of thin cider. He sips it slowly, standing near the open window, watching the street. This is not a place of spectacle. There are no bright signs, no music, no shouting, only quiet hands, a warm oven, and the gentle exchange of something essential. A loaf of bread, made before dawn, shaped with care, baked in silence, and passed from one pair of hands to another. Outside the bakery, life continues. Shoes scuff against stone. Wheels grind on gravel. Dogs bark softly in the distance. But inside, the air lingers sweet with the memory of baking. The shop may be nearly empty now, but the work lingers in the bellies of the children, in the baskets of the mothers, in the hands of the old men leaning on sticks, walking home with the promise of lunch. This is the quiet art of giving. The bakery is not a business. It is a bridge, a thread that ties the village together with the simplest act of nourishment. And the baker, he is its steward. Not loud, not proud, just present, always there, always rising before the sun, always reaching into the dough with tired hands, so that others may eat. The rush has passed. The shutters, once open wide to the village street, are now drawn halfway closed, not as a signal of finality, but of pause. The bakery is quieter now, less a public place and more a refuge. The baskets are mostly empty. A few stray crumbs cling to the worn linen linings, and a single crust from a broken loaf lies forgotten on the counter. The air is softer here in the afternoon. The heat of the oven has faded to a low, comforting warmth. The fire no longer crackles, but glows faintly, like the last light of evening resting on the stones. The baker exhales. His back aches gently, not with sharp pain, but the deep, dull throb of honest work. His hands are stiff, lined with flour, and dry at the knuckles. But there is satisfaction in that tiredness, a quiet pride, known only to those who give without ceremony. He pours a small basin of water and washes his hands. The water is cool. His fingers linger there for a moment, resting. Then, using a coarse cloth, he dries them and wipes the surface of the work table. Slow circular motions that leave faint, damp trails on the wood. There is no rush now. The day outside is warm, but mild. The heavy clouds of the early morning have parted, and shafts of golden sun fall through the open window panes, tracing patterns on the flour-dusted floor. A bee hums lazily near the windowsill, drawn by the sweet scent of crust and crumb. The baker ladles out a bowl of broth, simple, made from barley, leeks, and a few shavings of root vegetables left over from yesterday's meal. It is warm and thin, but flavorful, and he sips it slowly, seated on a low stool by the window. No meat, no luxury, just warmth, just nourishment. This is the first time he has truly sat down today. His legs extend beneath the table, boot heels resting against the cool floor. His eyes drift across the room. Everything is in its place now. The baskets are empty. The fire is low. The table clean. His shoulders, once tight with labor, now begin to soften, slumping gently as he breathes in and out. The village beyond the shutters has grown quiet too. Afternoon brings a natural lull. The children are indoors, eating. The animals, once noisy and active, lie in shaded corners. Even the blacksmith's hammer is still for a time. It is the hour of peace, the soft exhale between the bustle of morning and the chores of evening. Sometimes the baker dozes here, not long, just a moment. Head bowed slightly, fingers laced in his lap, a faint smile on his face, not from a dream, perhaps, but from the contentment of silence. The lull is not just a pause in work, it is part of the rhythm, a necessary stillness, like the cooling of a loaf before it is cut, like the moment between breaths. There is comfort in the little things now, the gentle click of cooling stones in the hearth, the soft rustle of the linen curtain at the window, tugged gently by the breeze, the way the light moves slowly across the wall, marking the time not with bells or numbers, but with shadows. He watches a fly land briefly on the table, then flit away. He hears a dove cooing from the rooftop above. In this quiet hour, the world feels smaller, kinder, as if everything has drawn in close to rest. He reaches for the ledger book, not for accounting, but for memory. Bound in rough leather, the pages smell of dust and ink. He flips past entries from weeks ago, lists of orders, small notes in the margins. One reads, "Gave loaf to widow, said she'll bring herbs next week." Another says simply, "Child came barefoot, took 2 rolls." He writes in today's date, 31 loaves, 1 set aside for priest, 3 unpaid. Then, in smaller writing, weather dry. Oven took longer to warm. The book is not a record for wealth. It is a kind of diary, a reflection, a place to keep track not just of what was made or sold, but of how the day felt, how the dough behaved, how the wind came from the east and carried the smoke sideways, how the church bell rang off time. It's the baker's way of remembering what mattered. The broth finished, the bowl is set aside. He stretches, slowly, carefully, lifting his arms overhead, then bending forward to ease his spine. Small population, a quiet groan, then stillness again. Some afternoons, if time allows, he tends to the small garden behind the bakery, a patch of earth with thyme, rosemary, a few onions, and marigolds growing among the fence posts. Today he will not go out. Today, he listens to the wind and watches the world through the frame of his quiet room. There is something sacred about this part of the day. No customers, no fire, just the steady settling of things, the memory of work done, the soft sounds of the world moving gently outside. It is not an ending, just a resting point, a silence between movements, a comma in the long sentence of his life. And in this moment, as he leans back in his chair, the sun warm on his brow, the scent of baked bread still clinging to the walls, he is at peace. Tomorrow will come, but for now, only rest. The sun sinks low on the western horizon. Its light, once bright and eager, has softened into long amber strokes across the rooftops. Shadows stretch like ribbons across the cobbled streets. The warmth of the day fades gently, leaving behind the memory of heat in the stones, in the earth, in the walls of the bakery. Inside, the soft quiet of the afternoon deepens into stillness. There is no more baking to be done today, no more mixing, no more fire to feed. The baskets are empty now. Only a few crumbs remain on the shelves, scattered like seeds, resting where hands once reached. The air is cooler, touched by the first fingers of dusk slipping in through the shutters. The baker stands slowly from his seat. His joints protest, but only slightly. His movements, though deliberate, are not heavy. They are simply slow, like the winding down of a clock. The final tasks of the day wait for him, familiar and reassuring. He begins with the kneading trough. It is large, carved from a single piece of timber, worn smooth over the years by thousands of mornings. He fills it with water, drawn from a clay jug that has stood all day in the corner, gathering the coolness of the shaded stone floor. He dips a bundle of straw brushes into the water, then begins to scrub the wood. The work is unhurried. His hands move in slow circles, cleaning away the remnants of flour and dough. He pours the water out the back door onto the compost pile, watching it sink into the soil. The evening air outside is calm. The garden hums with the low song of crickets and the rustling of leaves. Smoke rises from chimneys all across the village. Suppers are cooking. Children laugh faintly in the distance, chasing the last scraps of daylight. Back inside, he dries the trough with a length of old linen and sets it upside down on a bench, where it will rest until morning. He moves next to the peel, the wooden paddle used to move the loaves in and out of the oven. He wipes it clean, checking the handle for cracks. It has served him for years, its surface darkened by use, but strong, steady, reliable, like him. Then comes the sweeping. The floor, dusted with a fine layer of flour and ash, is swept carefully with a stiff broom. The corners are not ignored. No motion is wasted. He does not rush, even though the day is long and his limbs grow tired. This moment of care, of quiet restoration, is as important as the fire and the flour. The bakery must be ready for tomorrow, clean, honored. At the hearth, the fire is now no more than a faint memory. The oven, its work finished, radiates a gentle warmth. The coals have long since faded into soft gray ash. The baker kneels one last time and draws the ashes into a metal pail, leaving only the clean stone floor behind. He does not look inside as he closes the oven door. He knows it by heart. One final act remains. He walks to the back of the bakery, where a small ceramic crock rests on a high shelf. Inside, the leaven, the starter, the living heart of tomorrow's bread. He stirs it gently, watching the slow, bubbling rise, the faint tang of fermentation in the air. He adds a handful of flour, a splash of water, and covers it once more with a cloth. It will be ready come morning. This single act, the saving of the leaven, binds today to tomorrow. The work is never truly finished. It flows from day to day, loaf to loaf, like the turning of the seasons. What began before dawn now folds itself into the promise of another sunrise, another shift, another simple gift. The light outside continues to dim. The shutters are closed now, latched gently, the wooden slats filtering what little sun remains into soft golden stripes across the wall. The baker lights a single oil lamp. Its wick sputters, then flares, casting a warm, steady glow. The flame flickers as he moves through the room, cleaning the last tools, folding the cloths, straightening the jars of salt, yeast, and grain on the shelf. Each movement is a farewell, a small honoring of the day that has passed. He climbs the narrow stairs to his loft above the bakery, his knees stiff but steady. The room above is simple, only a bed of straw and wool blankets, a small chest, and a window that looks over the rooftops. The night is creeping in now. Lamps flicker in distant homes. A dog barks. An owl calls from the woods beyond the village wall. He kneels at the bedside for a moment, as he always does. No words are spoken aloud, but there is gratitude in his heart, not for riches, not for ease, but for the chance to work, to serve, to feed, to be part of something ancient and necessary. Then he lies back on the straw mattress. The blankets are coarse but warm. His arms fall across his chest. His breathing slows. The scent of flour and fire still clings to his tunic. The hum of the village at night surrounds him, subtle, rhythmic, like a lullaby made of distant footsteps and crackling chimneys. Sleep does not take long to find him. It comes softly, without fanfare, like the rising of dough, like the fading of embers. And in the bakery below, all is still. The tools rest, the oven sleeps, and tomorrow will come again. The fire is out now. The bread is baked. The shutters are drawn. The village has quieted into its nighttime rhythm, soft and slow, like the fading song of a lullaby no one quite remembers the words to. In the darkened bakery, everything is still. The tools sleep on their hooks. The baskets are folded. The flour sacks rest with slackened shoulders, their work done for the day. Even the air seems to hold its breath, thick with the scent of ash and grain and quiet satisfaction. The baker, too, sleeps. Above the shop, wrapped in a woolen blanket, his chest rises and falls in steady rhythm. His dreams are simple, silent, untroubled, held in the gentle curve of a day well spent. And so, the world turns. Another day will come, another loaf will rise, another fire will burn, and hands, tired but ready, will reach once more for the flour, for the dough, for the work that connects one morning to the next. It is easy, in our time, to forget the beauty of this rhythm. We live among machines and screens. We live in noise, in haste, in constant light. But here, in this little corner of time, tucked safely within the thick stone walls of a humble village bakery, life moves slowly, gently, purposefully. It reminds us that there is peace in repetition, that there is dignity in labor, that there is magic in the ordinary. A loaf of bread, a flicker of flame, a hand at rest. These are not just parts of a life. They are a life. So, If your eyes are heavy now, let them fall. If your breathing has slowed, let it deepen. If you are warm and safe and quiet, let sleep take you as gently as dusk follows day. Let your thoughts drift like the scent of baking bread, soft and slow, rising into the night. Let the world grow dim. Let the embers fade. The baker will rise again tomorrow. But for now, let it all be still. Good night.